Part 15. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 141. I don't need to interfere with what happens next. Mr. Wu will arrange everything. I can't go back to Jiyuntang, so I can only stay in the Wu family's coffin shop. Behind the Wu family's coffin shop is a small courtyard with many empty rooms. You can just pick any one to live in. I lay on the bed, looking at the old ceiling, and fell into deep thought. What I think about most at the moment is the affairs of Tianfu City God. I can't tell whether becoming the heir to Tianfu City God is a good thing or a bad thing. At present, I can only choose to take one step at a time. When soldiers come to cover up the water and earth, there is always a solution. As I thought about it, fatigue came over me, and I fell into a deep sleep before I knew it. In my dream, I dreamed of Su Tianxian. She was standing beside my bed and looking at me quietly. She is still so beautiful. A white dress brings out her slim figure, with delicate texture, even bones and flesh, and hidden beauty in the corners of her eyebrows and eyes. It is true that the beauty conceals the present and the past, and the lotus flowers shame the jade face. Lu Su. Su Tianxian slowly called out. For it. Why is this dream so real? It was as if Su Tianxian was really beside my bed. I sat up slowly and looked at Su Tianxian under the moonlight in a daze. Master? I asked tentatively. Su Tianxian nodded lightly. I pinched myself, it hurt so much. This is not a dream. I sat up from the bed excitedly and asked quickly, Master? You are here. Su Tianxian nodded slightly. I looked at Su Tianxuan's pretty face, lowered my head, and felt guilty. I whispered, Master, I'm sorry for that night. I've always felt guilty about this. He made the decision without saying hello to Su Tianxian in advance. Su Tianxian did not blame me, but said, You did a good job in this matter. I can't always control your life and make decisions for you, and your decision also saves me a lot of time. I raised my head and asked with some uncertainty, Master, don't you blame me? Su Tianxian shook his head and said, No wonder. I actually heard a bit of relief in Su Tianxuan's words. This kind of relief is like the child you take good care of turns out to be sensible one day. Such behavior makes you very touched. But Su Tianxian and I are about the same age. This is a bit. Su Tianxian changed the topic and said, You have already retrieved the soul-suppressing coffin. The next trip is extremely dangerous. I will protect you in secret, so you don't need to worry. Su Tianxuan's words gave me great comfort. Sure enough, only with Su Tianxian by my side can I feel a true sense of security. I told Su Tianxian everything that happened to me at the Chenghuang Temple, word for word. After Su Tianxian listened, the expression on his face did not change at all, as if he had expected all this. This matter is both an opportunity and a challenge for you. If you are not careful, you will be in catastrophe. If you can solve it successfully, the benefits you will gain will be huge. I nodded, and Su Tianxuan's expression suddenly turned cold. She said, If this false god dares to have evil intentions towards you, I, Su Tianxian, will definitely use everything I have to make him pay the price he deserves. Su Tianxuan's words were very powerful. I couldn't help but secretly wonder, could my master really have the strength to fight the city god? Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 142. But why was he at a disadvantage when facing the papermaker Mr. Pen? Su Tianxian itself is a mystery. I don't know anything about her. I know nothing about his strength, life experience, or background. In my impression, Su Tianxian always looks calm at all times, not panicking or afraid of trouble, as if everything is under her control. Lu Su, please keep the talismans I gave you. I suddenly remembered the talisman that Su Tianxian asked Mr. Wu to hand over to me. I took out the 3 talismans from my pocket. 1 yellow talisman, 1 red talisman, and 1 black talisman. There are 5 kinds of talismans: blue, yellow, red, white and black. Green is wood and belongs to the east, yellow is earth and belongs to China, red is fire and belongs to the south, white is gold and belongs to the west, and black is water and belongs to the north. Talismans of different colors also represent different functions. The color of commonly used talismans is yellow because they are easy to draw and have many uses. As for the thunder talisman, it can be used on talismans of any color. The effect is the same. As for the power of the thunder talisman, it depends on the cultivation level of the person who draws the talisman. Master, what are these 3 talismans used for? Su Tianqian stretched out his slender hand, pointed at the yellow talisman and said, "This talisman is a life-hiding talisman that can conceal a person's fate. You give this talisman to Xia 11, so that it can cover up her destiny." I nodded. Xia 11 is the star of the sheep, and Xia 11's grandfather is the false star of the sheep. Now the source of the evil star believes that the real sheep star is Xia Jingming. It would be very troublesome if the source of the evil star discovered that Xia 11 was the real sheep star. Su Tianqian pointed to the red talisman and said, "This talisman is the Liwo talisman, and its function can kill evil spirits." Liwo talisman. I've seen this kind of talisman in books before. This is the first-class talisman from Longhu Mountain. Most people can't draw it. I suddenly remembered the statue of Zhang Tianqi enshrined on the 2nd floor of Ji Yuntang. Could it be that Su Tianqian came out of Longhu Mountain? But Su Tianxuan's next words completely dispelled my idea. The black talisman is a corpse control talisman. Gu Ming thought it has the effect of controlling corpses and manipulating corpses. Most people who use corpse control talismans are corpse exorcists. And this talisman is also a secret that is not passed down by the corpse exorcists. How Su Tianqian obtained this talisman is unknown to me. Su Tianqian looked at me, and his voice suddenly became gentle, which made me slightly stunned. "Lu Su, your brain should know when to use these 3 talismans. Are you praising me for being smart?" After Su Tianqian said this, she was about to turn around and leave. When she walked to the door, her steps stagnated, and she suddenly turned around and said, "The affairs of Tianfu City God are not that troublesome, but the real trouble is Wuodeng Alley. I will wait for a while. I will contact Xiangyi to discuss how to resolve this matter. It's a lightless alley again." Xiangyi also said that this matter was very troublesome. Now Su Tianqian said this again. I couldn't help but wonder what kind of existence I had provoked. After Su Tianqian said this, he left. I looked at Su Tianxuan's back and let out a long sigh. Lightless alley. Lightless alley. What kind of existence is there? Although I went there once, I only felt that I had only lifted one layer of its veil, and its true appearance was still vague and confusing. I lay on the bed, looked at the ceiling, and fell asleep again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanba. Chapter 143. When I woke up again it was already noon the next day. But Mr. Wu and Wu 11 never showed up, so I guess they were preparing a double coffin. Sure enough, in the evening, Mr. Wu called Xia 11 and me to the main room. In front of us is a large coffin. Mr. Wu pointed to the coffin and said, "This coffin is just for you two." I was already mentally prepared, listened, and nodded. But this was the first time Xia 11 saw such a situation. Her delicate body trembled, and she subconsciously stretched out her slender right hand and hugged my left arm tightly. I gently stroked Xia 11's smooth little hand and comforted her, "Don't be afraid." Xia 11 bit her lips and nodded heavily. "I told you two to stop looking. Lie in and see if it fits." Wu 11's broken gong voice sounded in the back room. Then he opened the curtain and walked out. He came to me and Sia-11, stretched out his hand, patted the coffin, and said, "I made this with my own hands. You too, lie down in it." Sia-11 and I were speechless for a moment. Mr. Wu laughed on the side and said, "Sia-11 is right, you two should lie down and give it a try. If it is small, there is still time to improve." What Mr. Wu said was not unreasonable, but how could he lie down like this? Is it possible for me and Sia-11 to hug each other? Well, although it's not impossible. Sia-11 and I looked at each other and said, "How about, let's give it a try." Sia-11 bit her red lips, her face hesitant. It was very unlucky to have a living person lying in a coffin. Okay. I stepped into the coffin first and lay down. Being buried in a coffin is not the first time I have experienced such a thing. The first time I entered a coffin was that I was buried alive. Looking at the broken ceiling, I felt a little dazed, and the fear of that night flooded into my heart again. My body trembled involuntarily. At this moment, the fragrant wind entered my nose, and Sia-11 lay beside me. I slowly turned my head, and Sia-11's pretty face came into view. Sia-11's skin was fair and her body was tight. She seemed a little nervous at the moment, and she was trying her best to suppress her breathing. The two of us were so close, shoulders touching, that we could feel each other's heartbeats and body warmth. Sia-11 looked at the coffin wall, and her delicate body trembled. She quickly turned her head, looked at me, and murmured in a low voice, "Lusu, I'm a little scared." I smiled at Sia-11, stretched out my hand to gently hold Sia-11's hand, and said, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Sia-11 nodded, and at this moment, Wu-11 suddenly poked his head out from the side of the coffin, saw us holding hands, and said with a smile, "You two are really capable, you can still fall in love in the coffin." I was speechless again. This Wu-11's mouth is not ordinary poisonous. Hearing this, Sia-11 was thin-skinned and quickly stood up. I also stood up and left the coffin. Sia-11's face turned slightly red because of Wu-11's words. Mr. Wu nodded aside and said, "It's not bad. The scale is just right. I don't need to improve it." Wu-11 also echoed, "That's right. It's really suitable." Grandfather and grandson were discussing the size of the coffin, and Sia-11 and I could only stand aside and listen. It's impossible to leave the coffin tonight because Painted Skin Ghost hasn't come to the door yet. I need to know where the tomb is. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 144. As for the location of the tomb, only Painted Skin Ghost knows. I guess Painted Skin Ghost will find me tonight. The time soon reached 10 o'clock in the evening. Mr. Wu and others had gone back to their rooms to rest, but I was sitting in the coffin shop waiting for Painted Skin Ghost to arrive. At about 11 o'clock, there was a dull knock on the door. The rhythm of the knocking on the door, 3 short and 1 long, must not be a living person. I stood up, came to the door, and reached out to open the door of the coffin shop. The bright moon is like water, and the stars in the night sky illuminate the funeral street brightly. The second uncle stood quietly in front of the coffin shop. No, I shouldn't say it's my second uncle, I should say Painted Skin Ghost. When the Painted Skin Ghost saw me appearing, he grinned and asked, "My dear nephew, how are things going?" I nodded, listening to his tone. I felt angry for no reason. Painted Skin Ghost said this with the face of my second uncle. I wish I could tear apart his hypocritical disguise right now, but I can't do that. Once the skin is broken, the plan will be in vain. Painted Skin Ghost's face lit up and he laughed and said, as expected of my good nephew. Now that the matter has been resolved, let's set off tomorrow night. This sentence is exactly what I mean. I asked, "Second uncle, where are we going?" Painted Skin Ghost smiled and said in a mysterious manner, "You will know tomorrow night." It seems that painted skin ghost is not going to tell me where he is buried. However, this in itself was expected. Okay, uncle, let's see you tomorrow. Painted skin ghost nodded, then turned and left. Watching the painted skin ghost leave, my heart becomes heavier and heavier. Tomorrow night's trip will definitely be extremely dangerous. I went back to my room and couldn't sleep for a long time. What I have to face tomorrow is not only painted skin ghost, but also Mr. Pen. The biggest threat to me is the evil star source. No. I need to find another helper. I immediately thought of Ruo Hung. Ruo Hung is excellent both in character and skill. The most important thing is that there is an invisible tacit understanding between me and her. It often only takes one look to understand the other person's meaning. If she could help, that would be great. Thinking of this, I decided to go find Ruo Hung tomorrow and ask her if she could go with me. The next day, I came to the theater, and just as I was about to open the theater door, I heard the sound of singing opera coming from the courtyard. The singing voice is sometimes melodious, round and round, with a lingering sound. It is truly the best song in the world. I pushed open the theater door and walked in. On the stage, Ruo Hung was dressed in red and dancing to her own drama. Her movements are as light as a flying swallow, and her every frown and smile are so perfect and beautiful. Ruo Hung didn't notice my arrival. Instead, she devoted herself wholeheartedly to singing. After the play ended, Ruo Hung came to a gorgeous end. She got off the stage, came to me, and asked, "Did it look good?" I was slightly startled. It turned out that Ruo Hung had known about my arrival for a long time, but she just didn't stop. Nice. Ruo Hung smiled slightly and asked, "Do you want to watch a performance? This time it will be just for you alone." I nodded repeatedly. To be honest, watching Ruo Hung sing is really a wonderful thing. After hearing this, Ruo Hung rolled her eyes and said, "I thought it was quite beautiful. I, Ruo Hung, once swore that only one person could watch me dance solo." I couldn't help but ask, "Who?" Ruo Hung's nose twitched slightly and she hummed, "Of course he is my future husband." Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 145. Then didn't you let me see you dance solo just now?" Ruo Hung rolled her eyes and said, "That's my daily practice." "Does it have anything to do with solo dancing?" "Well, it really doesn't matter." Ruo Hung invited me into the room, then picked up the potato chips on the table and started eating them. I thought of the scene where she just sang in an opera and asked, "Do you sing in an opera every day?" Ruo Hung nodded while chewing the potato chips in her mouth, and said inarticulately, "Yes. I talk every day." "Do you have to finish singing every time?" Ruo Hung nodded again and replied, "The play has begun, come from all directions to listen, one is a human being, the third party is a ghost, and the fourth party is a god. So, I will finish singing regardless of whether there is anyone in the audience." Ruo Hung's eyes turned, looked at me, blinked, and asked, "Lu Su, you came to me today to ask for something, right?" I have to say that Ruo Hung's intuition is really accurate. "Yes, I do have something to ask for." Ruo Hung raised her fair chin, signaling for me to continue. I told Ruo Hung that I was going to the funeral tonight. After hearing this, Ruo Hung nodded. She stood up, stretched out her white hand, lightly tapped my forehead, smiled playfully, and said, "Lu Su, have you ever heard of such a sentence? What words? If you want a horse to run, you have to feed it." Ruo Hung blinked at me, and I instantly understood what Ruo Hung was thinking and said, "Of course I've heard of it. Tell me, how can you help me?" Ruo Hung touched her belly and said casually, "Oh, I haven't eaten anything delicious recently, and my belly is flat." I stood up, laughed, and said, "Isn't this difficult? Let's go. I'll take you to eat something delicious." Ruohong said with a smile, "You can teach me." In this way, I took Ruohong to the most luxurious restaurant in Tianfu City for a meal. The money used was naturally the bank card Su Tianxian gave me. After finishing the meal, Ruohong Qiao's face was full of satisfaction. She stretched out her hand, touched her slightly bulging belly, and then burped. "I had a good meal today, thanks to your help." I smiled slightly. I didn't expect her to agree so simply. Maybe Ruohong had no intention of rejecting my request from the beginning. "This meal was just a small excuse," Ruohong said casually. Ruohong and I said goodbye in front of the restaurant. I returned to the Wu family coffin shop. Mr. Wu is preparing for the funeral in the evening. It is impossible for Mr. Wu to go with us on this trip. Because in his words, he is already old and can no longer play with us young people. Therefore, Wu 11 and I will go together tonight. I called Xia 11 aside and took out the life-hiding charm from my pocket. "Put this talisman away. It will cover up your destiny and luck, so you can be safer." Xia 11 took the talisman and said thank you to me. She hesitated again and asked, "Lu Su, will we come back alive?" I was stunned by her question, but then I thought about it. It was reasonable for Xia 11 to have such an idea. She was living a normal life a few days ago, but now she's in trouble. I nodded heavily to her and said, "Yes, as long as I'm here, nothing will happen to you. Although my ability is still weak, I am willing to devote everything I have to protecting Xia 11. The corners of Xia 11's eyebrows and mouth raised slightly. She gave me a sweet smile and said, "I believe you." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanba. Chapter 146. Soon, night falls. Ruohong had already arrived at the coffin shop in the evening. Wu 11 opened the door for her, but unexpectedly, Ruohong was shocked when she saw Wu 11 for the first time. "Sister, are you interested in learning singing from me?" Wu 11 broke through his defense instantly and shouted in his broken voice, "I am a man. A pure man." Hearing this, Ruohong's expression began to distort, and her worldview probably collapsed. How can a man be as beautiful as a woman? However, Ruohong is also a person who has seen many big scenes. She calmed down and started talking about business with us. A few of us sat in the coffin shop, waiting for Painted Skin Ghost to arrive. I had already told Ruohong and others about the Painted Skin Ghost pretending to look like my second uncle. Because, in this operation, I must eliminate the Painted Skin Ghost. The moment Painted Skin Ghost loses its use value, it is his death. Boom, boom, boom. There was a dull knock on the door. 3 long and 2 short. "The Painted Skin Ghost is here." I opened the door and Painted Skin Ghost was standing in front of the door. "Good nephew, let's go." I nodded and greeted everyone in the room to prepare for the funeral. Because 2 coffins were needed, the number of coffin bearers was increased to 8. Due to the special nature of coffin bearers, they are never one person, but a small team. 4 people form a team to carry a coffin. These people are all disciples of Mr. Wu. Logically speaking, the inheritance of coffin bearers is from direct lineage. But in Wu 11's lineage, Wu 11 is the only one who meets the qualifications of a coffin bearer. Therefore, Mr. Wu could only accept a few outer disciples. Because the place we were going to was a bit far away, we had to find 2 trucks to pull the 2 coffins to a place closer to their destination, and then carry the coffins. Under the night, 2 hearses moved slowly through the city. The street scene receded, the lights followed, and soon our group drove out of the city. The scenery on both sides of the window began to change. From the high-rise buildings and neon lights in the beginning, it has now become a lonely tree in the wilderness and the chirping of cicadas. and my heart slowly sank as the scene outside the window changed. The hearse stopped in a wilderness, and several coffin bearers carried the coffin down under Wu 11's command. Then the hearse sped off, kicking up clouds of dust. I came to Painted Skin Ghost and asked, "Second uncle, it's time to tell us our destination this time, right?" Painted Skin Ghost chuckled, pointed to the mountains not far away and said, "That's where we are going." I looked in the direction Painted Skin Ghost pointed. The moonlight pours down from the night sky, coating the mountains and fields with a layer of silver. If it were daytime, I would still be able to see why, but now it's nighttime and it's impossible to see anything fishy. But I found something strange. That is, the moonlight scattered everywhere is actually converging in one direction. I looked up at the stars in the sky, and I was keenly aware that the scattered stars appeared neatly above the mountain. This is, the stars holding the moon. Sure enough, there must be a big tomb in the mountain in front of you. Ruohong came to my side and asked in a low voice, "Did you see anything?" I nodded and said, "There is a big tomb." I looked at Wu 11, who was wearing a ghost mask and directing the coffin bearers to carry the coffin. His kind of appearance would make the devil feel easy to bully if he met one. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanba. Chapter 147. Wearing an evil ghost mask can invisibly intimidate evil spirits. Soon, Wu 11 was ready. He handed an oil lamp to me and said, "Hold this oil lamp and lead the way for us." I took the oil lamp and nodded. Wu 11 continued, "Remember, once the coffin is raised, no matter what happens during the process, the coffin must not be stopped. Once the coffin is stopped, bad things will happen. I know, this is their coffin bearer's rule. So, a few of us have to clear the way for the coffin carrying team in front and deal with any emergencies that occur on the way." "Okay, I get it." Wu 11 turned around and shouted to the coffin carrying team, "Lift the coffin." 8 people worked together to lift the 2 coffins at the same time. A few of us headed towards the barren mountain under the leadership of Painted Skin Ghost. Carrying a coffin in this environment poses a huge challenge to the coffin bearers. After all, the road is uneven and overgrown with weeds. I held the lantern and walked side by side with Painted Skin Ghost. Xia 11 followed closely behind me. The quiet environment made Xia 11 fearful, and her beautiful eyes looked around nervously. Fortunately, Ruohong was there, holding Xia 11's hand tightly and giving her some comfort. Ruohong really looked like a gentle big sister in front of Xia 11. However, who would have thought that Ruohong would turn out to be a royal sister with a shameless heart? A group of us walked slowly through the deserted wilderness. As I walked, I suddenly found that the moonlight directly in front of me became brighter, as if there was a mirror reflecting the moonlight. I quickened my pace and looked forward, only to see a small river appearing in front of me. The river is not big, the water flow is not fast, and the water quality is excellent. That's why the moonlight here is brighter than anywhere before. There is a small bridge above the river. I visually checked the width. It should be able to allow the coffin behind me to pass. Painted Skin Ghost and I stopped at the same time. He looked at the river and fell into deep thought. After a moment, he said to me, "My nephew, if I want to cross the river safely, you have to open the way." I was slightly stunned and asked, "Isn't it just a river? Wouldn't it be nice to just walk across it?" The Painted Skin Ghost shook his head, his expression becoming a little solemn. "Countless people have drowned in lonely mountains and rivers, and these drowned ghosts cannot choose to reincarnate. If we cross the bridge, they will definitely be blocked, and they will even pull us into the water." Painted Skin Ghost's words are not unreasonable. If I didn't know the true identity of Painted Skin Ghost, I would believe it. But my second uncle will not let me block the drowned ghost, and only the painted skinned ghost in front of me can make this request. I looked back at our team, and everyone was looking at me. In order to ensure that the coffin-bearing team passed successfully, I could only do this. If you want to successfully avoid the intrusion of water ghosts, you can only choose to lure the souls across the river. To lure souls across a river is to hold an oil lamp and walk on the bridge to lure all the souls out and follow your steps, so that they will naturally ignore the people behind you. This method of luring souls across rivers has many uses. It can be used to attract souls, or it can be used to extract souls. If you want to extract your soul, you need to prepare a bench as a bridge and place a basin of water under the bench as a river. Then successfully walking across the bench is considered to be successful in attracting the soul. I turned around and said to the people behind me, "I'll cross the river first. You keep your distance and follow me." Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 148. Ruo Hung and others nodded. I took a deep breath, held the oil lamp, and walked onto the wooden bridge. Ruo Hung and others were watching behind me, and only walked onto the bridge after the coffin-carrying team caught up. I stepped onto the wooden bridge, and the wooden planks swayed under my feet, making one wonder whether the dilapidated wooden bridge could bear the weight of the two coffins. Nothing strange happened at first, but when I walked to the middle of the wooden bridge, a thick white mist suddenly appeared on the river. The white mist was so thick that it came towards me like a tide. It looked like a roiling white river. Soon the white mist completely enveloped me. Is it possible that there really are water ghosts at the bottom of the river? I was in no hurry to think too much, so I could only choose to speed up and walk across the wooden bridge faster. As my pace quickened, the creaking sound from the wooden bridge became louder and louder, like an old cow panting. In addition to the creaking of these wooden boards, there was also the sound of rushing water. The two sounds were intertwined, making the person's scalp numb. In addition, every time I took a step, there would be a dull sound of footsteps behind me. Is it Ruo Hung and the others? I subconsciously wanted to turn around to see what was going on, but I held myself back. I continued to move forward, and the dull footsteps behind me turned extremely noisy, as if there were countless people following me. Moreover, the noisy footsteps were also mixed with the sound of water drops falling to the ground. There is only one possibility to make such a sound. That's what's at the bottom of the river coming ashore. I took a deep breath and pretended not to hear. But the noisy footsteps behind him were like a nightmare, following him every step of the way. I took a step forward again. It was the step that caused earth-shaking changes in the surrounding environment. The moonlight dissipated, the footsteps disappeared, and the surroundings fell into endless darkness, with only the oil lamp in his hand still emitting a faint light. By the dim light of the oil lamp, I saw a few people standing at the end of the wooden bridge. The leading man was wearing a green shroud, with an old complexion and white hair. When I saw that man's face clearly, my pupils dilated and shrank instantly, and endless fear invaded me again. That person is none other than someone else. It's my grandma. Grandma was flanked by her grandfather and parents, who were exactly the same as in front of her. I felt my whole body tremble, and my originally firm step seemed a little hesitant at this moment. Just when I was hesitating, the sound of Wu 11's broken voice suddenly came to my ears. "Lusu! Hurry up and leave. The coffin-carrying team cannot stop." Wu 11's voice immediately pulled me out of my daze. I held the oil lamp and walked towards the end of the wooden bridge again. My grandparents and parents stood quietly at the bridge. At this moment, the corners of their mouths all raised, giving me a weird smile. "Xiao Su! Put down the oil lamp and come with us." "Yes." "Xiao Su, put down the oil lamp and reunite with us." "My good son. Mom misses you so much." "Son. Dad has been waiting for you." Their words seemed to be able to confuse people's hearts. I couldn't help but take steps and ran into their arms. Just when I was about to arrive, I suddenly woke up. There was a bottomless river tumbling in front of me. My right foot was hanging in the air, and I was only one step away from falling to the bottom of the churning river and falling into the endless abyss. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanba. Chapter 149. There is a layer of white mist lingering on the river, the white mist is billowing, and ghost hands are springing up from the bottom of the river like bamboo shoots after rain. These ghost hands were soaked and turned white and swollen, looking disgusting and terrifying. I quickly retracted my foot, a little scared, and almost fell. On the other side of the river, the smiles on the faces of my parents, grandparents, and grandparents grew deeper and deeper, and the corners of their mouths rose wider and wider. Tear. The corners of the mouths of the four people were cracked together, the muscles were connected, and scarlet blood slowly dripped down the corners of the mouths. The broken threads of blood and flesh, tendons, and bones looked particularly shocking. The most frightening thing is that the corners of the mouths of the four people are cracked to the extent of the back ears. They roared like beasts, as if I would be swallowed by their bloody mouths if I took a step forward. I hesitated in my steps, completely frightened by the scene in front of me. They are like zombies, roaring hard, and like wild beasts, as if they will rush up and tear you into pieces if you are not careful. Just when I was hesitating, Ruo Hongjiao's voice sounded in my ears. Lusu. Don't be fooled by these water ghosts. Keep moving forward. Ruo Hong's voice gave me great encouragement. Yes. They are just a cover-up used by water ghosts to confuse people, they are not real. In front of my eyes, the wooden bridge has collapsed, and one step forward is an abyss. It is impossible for a wooden bridge to disappear out of thin air, so the bridge in front of you must still be there. Thinking of this, I stepped forward and walked towards the four people. I took a step and stepped firmly on the surface. Although there were countless ghost hands under my feet, this still could not stop me from moving forward. At this moment, a wet ghost hand suddenly grabbed my ankle. My expression condensed, and I quickly pulled out Jingxiao from behind. I held the lantern in my left hand and the sword in my right hand, and cut off the ghost hand with a swipe of my hand. Immediately afterwards, countless ghost hands stretched out and attacked me, trying to drag me into the water. I didn't dare to neglect and quickly waved the Jingxiao in my hand. Wherever the Jingxiao passed, the ghost hand broke, sending out bursts of black mist. Soon, I came to the bridge. They were still growling at each other with their big mouths. I gritted my teeth and forced myself not to be confused by the situation in front of me. Just when I was about to take another step, a pale hand suddenly grabbed my arm. I took a closer look and saw that it was my mother. Her mouth had returned to normal, but her eyes were as cold and vicious as a poisonous snake. Why? Why don't you stay with me? I can't die without you. I can't die either. These words pierced my heart like a knife. My mother's cold words appeared in my ears again. It's all you. It's all you. You broomstick. Broomstick. Yes. I am a broom star. What qualifications do you have to survive in this world? Leave with us. You must atone for the mistakes you have committed. Atonement. Stay with us forever. Suddenly, I felt inexplicably sad, and all the negative emotions came over me. At this time, I suddenly came up with the idea that perhaps only death can make up for my regret for the deceased relatives. I slowly raised the Jingxiao in my hand and was about to stab it in my chest. Just when the shock was about to sink into my chest, a familiar voice sounded in my ears. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanba. Chapter 150. Lusu. I was slightly startled. This voice was, Su Tianxian. No one can blame you. You've done a great job. When you are tired, suffering, and can't hold on any longer, just tell me. I will always be by your side. I have never heard such a gentle voice from Su Tianxian. Her voice is like a trickle of water in the mountains, slowly flowing through people's hearts. It is like the warm sunshine of the ancient city, shining into people's hearts, bringing warmth and touching. I suddenly woke up. I almost got into trouble with these ghosts. This is the most deceptive ghost I have ever seen. Every word he speaks can penetrate your heart. The mother's spiteful roar was still there. This time, without any hesitation, I raised the Jingxiao in my hand and pierced my mother's heart directly. Ah! There is no way I can hit the same trick a second time. The other 4 water ghosts disguised as my relatives rushed towards me with their teeth and claws. With a stern look on my face, I raised the Jingxiao in my hand and pierced their hearts directly. The miserable howl resounded through the night sky. My hand holding Jingxiao trembled slightly. When my right foot stepped on the ground, the sounds in my ears disappeared instantly, and the endless environment returned to its previous state of bright moon, barren mountains, and wild ridges. I turned my head and looked at the Ruohong people on the bridge. They were already only 7 or 8 meters away from me. Soon, they came to me. The coffin-carrying team also successfully crossed the bridge. Ruohong came to me, patted my shoulder and said, "Lu Su, it's okay. Do you know how many water ghosts were behind you just now?" Thinking of the noisy footsteps behind me, I felt a sense of fear. Seeing that I didn't answer her, Ruohong said to herself, "What a guy. There are hundreds of them. They are so densely packed together. It's scary. 100? This should be Ruohong's approximate estimate. The bridge is not big. If you walk closely, it should be able to accommodate hundreds of water ghosts." The strange river and the drowned water ghost made my heart slowly sink. This happened to me as soon as I got here, but what happens after that? I looked at Xia 11 and found that her delicate body was shaking non-stop. I came to her and asked, "Are you okay?" Xia 11 nodded and said, "It's okay." I sighed. The situation just now was a bit difficult for an ordinary person like Xia 11 to accept. When the painted skin ghost saw this scene, he said on the side, "Have all Xia Jingming's descendants degenerated into this? Are they afraid of seeing a ghost like this?" I looked at painted skin ghost, slowly narrowed my eyes, and asked, "Second uncle, what do you mean by this?" The painted skinned ghost was slightly startled, and quickly changed the topic with a ha-ha, and said, "What I mean is that Xia Jingming is also a business tycoon after all, and the temperament of future generations will not be like this. Let's go quickly." After saying that, painted skin ghost stepped forward in a hurry. I looked at painted skin ghost's back and raised a sneer at the corner of my mouth. What painted skin ghost just said made me very concerned. I don't know the relationship between painted skin ghost and Xia Jingming, but one thing is for sure, the relationship between one person and one ghost is definitely unusual. Xia Jingming's descendants have fallen like this. What does this sentence mean?